There we go. Okay. We're talking about toddlerhood. We're talking about how kids function. Maybe. There we go. Okay. According to Piaget, a baby is born with all its senses primed to take in new information. The baby organizes all the incoming data in the form of schemes that are added to and changed with new information. Right after birth, a newborn must operate in its world using its senses and its motor skills. This stage Piaget referred to as the sensory motor stage. The newborn will try to understand the world using its senses, especially its mouth. The stage runs from birth to 2 years. Now, remember, Freud called this era the oral stage because everything was focused on the mouth, and Piaget kind of agrees with that. Simple reflexes, the infant's first interactions with the world are through reflexive behavior. Hunger plus presence of nipple equal the rooting reflex, and that's how it gets sustenance. After about 1 month, the infant will begin developing habits and circular reactions. A habit is a scheme based on a reflex that becomes separated from its stimuli, sucking when a nipple isn't present. A circular reaction is a repetitive action. An infant will begin participating in primary circular reactions. The infant will use its body in a repetitive manner. At between 4 to 8 months, the child will begin participating in secondary circular reactions. The infant will go outside itself for stimulation, such as playing with a rattle. Between the 8th and the 12th month, the infant will begin coordinating its secondary circular reactions. The infant will begin mixing and matching its exploration of its environment. That's my grandson. When he was, I don't know, he's standing up, so he must be around 8 months old. Tertiary circular reactions develop between the 12th and 18th month. The infant starts exploring the properties of its environment and playing the organ. Internalization of schemes occurs between the 18th and 24th month. The child begins using symbols such as language to communicate. Between the 4th and 8th month, a baby will develop an understanding that just because someone or something is not there, it isn't gone. And this is known as object permanence. And of course, this is an example. The baby wants the chicken. As soon as you cover it up, they're not even looking for it. Same thing here. Wait a minute, the baby went through the screen in order to get to the chicken. At about 18 months, most toddlers will begin to talk and gesture. Words and gestures are examples of the first stage of abstract thinking, the use of symbols. Children begin to engage in pretend play, and waving becomes the sign language of goodbye. Language is made up of individual sounds that are put together to make words that have meaning. These sounds are called phonemes. There are about 44 in the English language, depending on where you live. And now we're going to go through all the phonemes, I think. Yep.
The key sounds of English, 44 phonemes and 4 blends. 18 consonant phonemes. B, k, d, f, g, j, o, n, p, r, s, t, y, w, y, z. 5 consonant digraph phonemes. N, j, ch, sh, and z. 16 vowel phonemes. A, E, I, A, U, A, E, I, O, U, ow, oi, ah, aw, 5 R-controlled phonemes. R, or, air, ear. 4 blends. Ur, qu, u, x, or gs. And here they all are on one page.
Feeling my husband at 8 inches after this honey hack was...
Okay, oops, okay. When we put phonemes together, if the sounds we put together communicate, they are words or morphemes. A morpheme is the smallest unit of meaning. Carport has 2 morphemes. Roper has 2 morphemes. Carport, car, and port. Roper, rope, and meaning someone who does. Roper. Sequence of early language development. As physical structures mature, children are able to make more and more sounds. Neuronal connections necessary to associate sound and meaning become activated. Social interaction with adults introduces babies to the communicative nature of speech. Sequence of language. Prelinguistic speech is cooing and babbling. Cooing is where they make the vowel sounds, and babbling is where they put consonant sounds with the vowel sounds. Linguistic speech, hollow phrase, and telegraphic speech. Hollow phrase is where they use one word to say something, to mean a whole sentence, and telegraphic speech is where they leave out all the articles. Children learn language quite rapidly, a process referred to as fast mapping. One reason is because the parent tends to try to teach their child words by labeling objects when they are both looking at the item. This is known as joint attention. Noam Chomsky has suggested an inborn language acquisition device, or LAD, which programs children's brains to analyze the language they hear and to figure out its rules. This is known as nativism. The evidence is that environmental influences alone cannot explain the emergence of linguistic expression. The left hemisphere seems to be a critical portion of the brain for learning language. No other primate can learn language. Language acquisition must take place before the age of 12, or it only takes place with much effort and incompletely. First attempts to communicate at 10 months. After the first birthday, the child will engage in conversation with adults. As the child ages, the language skills improves and the vocabulary grows. Children simplify language. Children over-regularize rules. They apply them rigidly, not knowing that some rules have exceptions. Children understand grammatical relationships they cannot yet express. Children underextend word meanings. Children simplify language. All dry, hit ball. They apply them rigidly, not knowing that some rules have exceptions. I played with toy. I go to store. Children understand grammatical relationships they cannot yet express. I like you. When the world is mine, your death shall be quick and painless. I can't make a Stewie voice, sorry. Children underextend word meanings. Tanya won't let anyone else call their father daddy because that is what she calls her father. Children overextend word meanings. Melissa calls all animals doggy because that is what her mother taught her to call their dog. Reading aloud to your child allows for opportunities for emotional intimacy and parent-child communication. Children who are read to often have better language skills at ages 2, 4, and 5, and better reading comprehension at age 7. According to Erickson in 1950, early experiences are the key to developing either trust or mistrust. Sensitive, responsive, consistent caregiving leads to trust. Mistrust is developed when the infant's basic needs are not met. Autonomy versus shame and doubt leads to a shift from external to self-control. Negativism is the tendency to shout no just for the sake of resisting authority. This type of behavior hits its peak during the terrible twos. Negativism may hit another peak between 3.5 and 4, but will usually decline before entering school. Birth to 6 to 8 weeks, evolution has endowed a baby with many behaviors that elicit caregiving from the adult, such as crying, smiling, gazing intently into the parents' faces. The parent responds by holding and cuddling the baby. This creates an interactive system and is the first step in attachment. Frequently, the social interactions between parent or other caregiver and infant involve a pattern of close coordination and teamwork in which each waits for the other to finish before beginning to respond. This pattern of closely coordinated interaction is called caregiver-infant synchrony. Until an infant is several months old, responsibility for coordinating this activity rests with the caregiver. But after a few months, the baby becomes capable of initiating social interchanges and influencing the content and style of her caregiver's behavior. Some of this continuity is created by the baby rather than the mother. 6 to 8 weeks to 6 to 8 months, the next stage is the attachment and the making stage. Babies start to recognize and act differently around familiar and unfamiliar caregivers. They attach themselves to primary caregivers and cling to them when they are in distress or mock distress. 6 to 8 months to 18 months, by the 7th or 8th month, the child has usually singled out one of their caregivers as their favorite. Usually it's their mother. The child will use the mother as a base to explore from. The baby trusts the mother to be there. But it's not always the mother, of course. 18 months and older, the ever-expanding cognitive and language skills of the child call for more and more interaction between the child and the parent. The child will and should take the initiative to initiate these interactions. Negotiation often takes place. There is a strong relationship between a father's close involvement with his baby and the baby's development. The father's involvement in caregiving has increased by 1/3 in a single generation. 1/4 of U.S. fathers take care of their school-age children while the mother works, and nearly 1/5 are primary caregivers. U.S. fathers tend to play with their children in a more physical style, though this is not common in other countries. Developing attachments, a reciprocal, enduring emotional tie that's what the attachment is defined as. Secure attachment, a baby greets mom happily when she returns. Avoidant attachment avoids mother when she returns. Ambivalent or resistant attachment, they're anxious even before the mother leaves, and they're ambivalent when she returns. Disorganized, disoriented attachment, inconsistent, contradictory behavior. Mothers tend to be insensitive, intrusive, or abusive. So there are 4 types of attachment: secure, avoidant, ambivalent, and disorganized, disoriented. Erickson and other theorists feel that the infant-parent relationship lays the foundation for all later social relationships. Therefore, a child who experiences a secure relationship with their parents will be able to maintain this pattern of attachment throughout their lives. Insecure attachments may lead to other problems for the child due to problems in the parent-child relationship, such as maltreatment and parental mental illness may cause problems with the parent-child relationship. Researchers have determined that secure attachment is most likely to occur when the parents are responsive and sensitive. Babies who have difficult temperaments are less likely to develop secure attachment. Unfortunately, these difficult children do not elicit positive treatment from their parents. Research shows that these mothers can be trained to give their children the type of treatment that they need. Newborns are able to demonstrate their unhappiness by crying, flailing their arms, and stiffening their bodies. When babies need something, they cry. When they are feeling sociable, they smile or laugh. When their emotions are responded to, they react in a similar manner when the emotion occurs again. Smiling occurs spontaneously soon after birth, but is usually not tied to anything specific. Spontaneous smiling slowly decreases over the first 3 months. Responsive smiling begins the second week to stimulation, usually feeding. By the third week, the infant smiles in response to voices and faces. Social smiling begins at about 1 month. Laughing begins in the 4th month to stimulation. Researchers have discovered that babies can show joy, sadness, interest, and fear at birth. Later, they show anger, surprise, and disgust, depending on the amount of emotional stimulation and the emotional display their caregivers have shown them. Body movement is also a good way of reading a baby's emotion, turning the body away, turning the gaze away. Babies rarely react negatively to strangers before 6 months of age. Many children react more negatively to strangers around their 8th or 9th month, though it gradually decreases to their first year. Babies are less likely to act negatively if mothers speak positively of the individual and they approach the baby slowly and playfully. While most children worldwide express the same basic and complex emotions, in some cultures, emotional expression is encouraged and in others it isn't. Research comparing American children with Chinese children showed that at 11 months, American children cried and smiled more than 11-month-old Chinese children. When American children are given awards where they stand out, they feel proud in their personal achievement. In China, the same situation would elicit embarrassment and shame. This situation would be celebrated by honoring the entire class or even the entire school. If someone takes something from an American child, they are likely to show anger. In Buddhist countries, a child rarely shows anger for any reason. One of the basic means of surviving in a social world is to take cues for our behavior from others. Children begin doing this at birth, and we all continue it when we are in an unfamiliar or ambiguous situation. This is known as social referencing. This may be one reason why children often mimic their parents' phobias. As children get older, they begin regulating their own emotion. A child is more likely to try to deal with their own fear as they get older than seek assistance. Children will use mental strategies to manage emotions, talking to themselves in order to control unwanted feelings. Not all children are able to regulate their emotions, and the ones who struggle tend to have problems interacting with others. Through the first year, children have been playing with their own toys. They will allow older people to play with them, but they don't really play well with their peers. At about one year, the child begins to be able to play alongside a peer who is playing with a similar toy or in a similar manner. The children will monitor each other's play, but they won't play with each other. This is known as parallel play. As the children approach their second birthday, they will begin playing together in a more organized fashion. In this play, they will accept specialized roles and the play will follow specific themes. This type of play is referred to as cooperative play. Between the 15th and 18th month mark, The children will begin engaging in similar activities and talk and smile with one another while this takes place. This is known as simple social play. As children become older, their cooperative play becomes more and more intricate. Children will start using more imaginary themes in their play and will incorporate items that may take on some quite imaginary characteristics. This is referred to as symbolic play. Researchers have discovered that symbolic play follows cultural precepts. American children tend to engage in more adventure and fantasy play, while Korean children play following more traditional values. Family themes with harmony more important than conflict. And that is the end of the chapter.